There's a lot I want to say about Street Fighter 6's mechanics, mostly because there are so many possibilities that come out of them, to the point where it's overwhelming. So much so that I initially considered making one video summarizing my thoughts on all of them, but there's so much to take into account that I decided to dedicate each video to a single mechanic, starting with punish counters, which is what Street Fighter V brings to the table. In fighting games, there's something called counter hit. Effectively, if you attack the opponent during their startup animation, you are rewarded with a counter hit. And depending on the game, the reward may differ. In fact, some games have counter hits without any reward whatsoever, like Dragon Ball FighterZ. But for Street Fighter specifically, there are some combos that are impossible to do without a counter hit. Street Fighter V takes it one step further and adds crush counters. If you use certain heavy attacks, the opponent will be stunned for much longer, to the point where really absurd lengths are possible. Crush counters were kinda controversial back in the day, especially if you considered button weight priority and V-trigger activation not having damage reduction during the combo, to the point where they actually increased the damage reduction on a crush counter versus a regular counter hit. So in most cases, it was more optimal to get a regular counter hit for certain combos than a crush counter. One interesting thing about crush counters, in my opinion, is that while I don't necessarily agree with swinging heavies until you get a crush counter with punish, there was one situation where crush counters felt really cool, is when you were punishing the recovery of a reversal. And that seems to be the direction Capcom went with crush counters in Street Fighter 6. Now they call it punish counters. Now while counter hits are common in fighting games, you might see a couple newer games like Guilty Gear Strive or King of Fighters 15, where hitting the opponent during the recovery of their attack, as opposed to their startup, will say punish instead of counter hit. Now, unlike counter hits, which provide a +2 frame advantage bonus on hit, punish counters will yield more hits done than regular chains do. You can punish counter not only grounded attacks, but also jumping attacks. A punish counter of any kind will drain the opponent's drive meter. And a punish counter can be performed whether the move whiffs or is blocked. It has the same effect. Changing crush counters to be the opposite of counter hits makes it so that not only you can punish counter with heavies, but also light and mediums. And that means there are going to be some medium or light starters that you cannot do on counter hit or regular attacks that are going to be available to you via punish counters. Here are a couple examples that I can verify from Twitter clips of either the G-Off or the Tokyo Game Show version of the game. Roundhouse normally just staggers the opponent, right? Whether it's regular hit or counter hit, it doesn't make much of a difference. In Street Fighter 6, if you punish counter, it launches the opponent upwards, so you have an extra juggle to use. Now here's an example of a crush counter or punish counter on not a heavy button, but a medium button. Chun-Li in Street Fighter 6 can do medium kick into Hazanshu, which is not a combo possible at all in Street Fighter 5. I checked and there's no medium button in Street Fighter 5 that allows you to combo into Hazanshu. And from your heavy buttons, without counter hit, the only button is Crouching Fierce. Ryu stand heavy kick or stand roundhouse gets a focus attack style crumple on heavy kick. This already mimics his crush counter in Street Fighter 5.
Derrière. La chope. Oh, c'est pas
Good answer.
C'est pas possible. C'est pas possible. C'est pas possible. C'est pas possible. C'est pas possible.
There are many more examples on Nurse Lee's Twitter account, link in the description. But before I close off this video, there's two more things I want to mention. Street Fighter V introduced techable sweeps and throws. However, if you get a crush counter sweep, you cannot tech at all. It's a hard knockdown just like the older games. With punish counters, Street Fighter 6 made it so that throws are eligible for punish counters, so they're also hard knockdowns, which is not possible in Street Fighter 5. And speaking of throws, performing a throw during a punish counter grants a 70% damage bonus to the throw's damage value, meaning that instead of doing 10%, you deal 17%. However, it seems that damage bonus only applies to normal throw. Jamie has a command grab after reaching a couple drink levels, and it never said punish counter when he used the move, meaning with punish command grabs will still deal normal damage, which is a good thing at the end of the day. Can you imagine EX spinning pile driver PC? That shit's gonna do like early Potemkin Buster damage.
Oh my...